Basketball season is right around the corner, so now's the time to start getting prepared for your NBA fantasy drafts. I'm going to be doing a tier rank list for every position. First up, this video, we have the point guards. Don't forget to subscribe if you like the video. We're going to be doing a lot more stuff before the NBA season begins. And if you hate this video, smash that thumb down. It's all good. And as always, shoot a comment down below. I'll try to reply to every single comment, every single video. And for those of you that are new here, I'm Chris, and welcome to Number 2 Sports. Starting this video and tier list off right, we're going with the reigning scoring champ, the league MVP, NBA champion, and finals MVP, the good old Canadian, or should I say now the filthy rich Canadian, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. One of the top picks out of the entire NBA, not just point guards. SJ absolutely dominated last year, finishing as one of the best players throughout the entire fantasy landscape. And he does this by having elite percentages, 51.9% from the floor and 89.8% from the charity stripe. And I know he is a free throw merchant. To a lot of opposing fans this may, and I get it, it slows down the game, it can be boring, and it can potentially hinder some of the excitement in these late game situations as you're watching SGA out there pump fake trying to draw a foul. But hey, it's not his fault that the rules allow him to do that, and he's so good at it. Regardless of that though, SGA is an elite scorer, averaging 32 points per game last year, and he can attack you in just so many different ways. He can beat you off the dribble, left and right. He can beat you in the mid game with that midi pull up. He can knock down the three-pointer, and he's just honestly an exceptional finisher around the rim. Add in that he has a nice handle, and he just has limitless options on ways that he can attack you depending what defense is being thrown at him. He's just an elite scorer. You try and double him, SGA will make sure he finds the open man. He averages around 6 assists per game, and he's a solid rebounder for his position, and he likes to play defense. Well, really, that entire Oklahoma team thrives on playing lockdown defense. And the stocks are huge because of it. Averaging 1 block and 1.7 steals per game last year, really elevating him over other elite point guards. Because if you combine all that, his whole fantasy kit, and the fact that he rarely turns the ball over, averaging under 3 turnovers per game for his entire career, which is insane considering his usage rates are usually at the top of the league every single year, around 35%, meaning that he just has the ball in his hands a lot. He's the main facilitator, the main scorer. Everything runs through him. It's just icing on the cake that he's not going to kill you in the turnover department like some of these other point guards that we're going to get to later on do. One flaw, I guess if you can consider it a flaw, is he's not going to light up your 3-point totals. He's not going to be a 0 in that regard, but he's not going to be like it's not going to be like a Curry or these other guys who are really going to carry you in that department. So that could be a flaw. Just know in your draft, if you're getting SGA, if you're lucky enough to get SGA, that you're probably going to need some 3-point help later on in your draft. Regardless though, he's a stud in any format, especially 9-cat because of those low turnover numbers. Legit one of the best picks in the entire fantasy basketball landscape. Man, who would have thought when the Clippers traded him that he'd be this good? Back-to-back bangers with another guy who absolutely deserves to be an S tier, who looks like he's put in absolute work over the offseason, getting away from all that Texas meat, a former scoring champ, 5-time NBA All-Star, Luka Doncic. Now famously traded from the Dallas Mavericks to the Lakers last season for Nico Harrison's supposedly concerns about work ethic, weight, drinking beers, or whatever he said to try and justify it. Luka looks poised to absolutely wreak havoc on the league this year. He has about as much upside as anyone in the league as a stat stuffer, triple-double threat, night in and night out. Some of his stats did slightly dip after the trade to LA, but can you really blame him? No one in the world, including Luka, saw this coming, and it takes time to adjust to a new team, a new coach, and definitely to adjust playing alongside such another ball-dominant player in LeBron James. Luka will average close to 30 points per night, 8 to 10 assists, 8 to 10 rebounds. He's going to hit 3 to 5 threes as well. He'll shoot around 45% from the floor, and he's a great free throw shooter, hovering around 80%. He won't get you a ton in the block department, but he will average close to 2 steals per game. And the one thing that can hinder his value maybe a little bit is his turnover numbers can run high. He averages close or over 4 for his career. But you have to consider his usage rates are usually at the top of the league each year, and he does just try some absolutely ridiculous passes, mind you, that do usually work. That is just the one category that can just drag down his value just a little bit in 9 category leagues. An elite ISO scorer and creator whose chemistry with LeBron James should only improve after having a full offseason together. Speaking of a full offseason, JJ Redick now also gets a full offseason too with LeBron and Luka. And I guarantee he's going to have the Lakers running beautiful sets for open looks, open threes, and open lob opportunities. That's really going to help Luka's percentages and assist totals. I have no doubt in my mind that Luka's going to stuff the stat sheet each night like a Thanksgiving turkey. And I definitely think he has some extra motivation this year to shove it down Nico Harrison's throat. There is no way that he didn't take that personally. And I expect massive things from Doncic in 2025. I so badly wanted to put Cunningham into S tier for fantasy. I just don't think he's quite there yet. If he has a little bit of slight improvement this year, he'll easily be an S tier the following season. But at the same time, I do think he's a little bit above the tier 1 guys. So I've created this own tier for him as almost S tier and plop that big booty in there. Cunningham is an elite stat stuffing machine similar to Luka and SGA, which is why I just think these guys are above everyone else for their position. He can light up the scoreboard, coming in at 26.1 points per game. He has amazing assist totals. He almost averaged a double-double last year with 9.1 assists, and he's a great rebounder for his position. He can get around 6 rebounds per game, which is awesome. And he can definitely get after it on D, averaging close or more than 1 block and 1 steal per game, which is huge stocks for fantasy purposes. One downside though, which is why I don't think he's a for sure S tier type player, is his turnovers. His turnovers can run really high. He averages 4.4 per game, and sometimes if he has a really bad game, he's like a quadruple double threat with points, rebounds, assists, and turnovers. But again, he has the ball in his hands a lot. Detroit not only relies on him to be their facilitator, but relies on them to be their go-to option when they need a bucket as their ISO scorer. He can attack you off the dribble with both the pull-up, and he can just blow by you to the hoop, and has an amazing finish ability above and below the rim. Combine that with his phenomenal passing skills and shot creator for teammates, and you can see why he's such a stud for fantasy purposes. I also think people really underestimate just how strong of a guy this is. Azar Thompson in a recent interview talked about the first time that he played ones against him in practice, and I'll just play the clip here.
And it was ones from the top of the key, and you had 5 seconds. And I'll never forget, I was skinnier back then, but he posted me up from the top of the key, from the 3-point line, all the way under the basket, and I fouled him. And then he went and did the same thing.
So yeah, like Thompson said, he just has the power to attack you in so many different ways. Cade is also a great free throw shooter at 84.6% per game, and he'll chuck up around 6 threes per game, coming in around 35% clip. And each year he's continued to improve his field goal percentage from the floor, and last year he had one of the better marks of his career at 46%. The former first overall pick from 2021 has improved each year if we take out that 2022-2023 season where he only played 12 games before he suffered that serious injury. And that's just what you want to see with these young guys. Working on their game, working on their craft, working on their bag, and just improving. Consistently running one of the higher usage rates in the entire NBA, hovering around 34% last year. His team, Detroit, relies on him. They need him to score and facilitate to win ball games. For him just to improve a little bit and jump into S tier for next season, I want to see him improve his 3-point shooting a little bit. He needs to hit a few more threes. He needs to take care of the rock. He's got to lower his turnover numbers. But that should improve as the players around him get better as well. Detroit's making strides each year along with Cunningham. And again, I think they're going to be a better team this year as well. And also just experience. He's only 23 years old, remember. He's learning to try and not force things if they just aren't there. The game's starting to slow down for him, and it really shows watching him play. I'm super bullish on Cade. Detroit should only get better, helping increase Cade's ceiling. I think he could easily be a triple-double threat night in and night out with solid percentages in the near future. So for tier 1, these guys are in no real particular order. You can move them around any which way you want based on personal preference, or even more so for any particular build that you're doing. But regardless of that fact though, these guys are top-notch anchor PGs to build any fantasy squad around them. The first player kicking off tier 1, we got the left-handed sharpshooter from the New York Knicks, the 2-time NBA All-Star, Jalen Brunson. Listed at 6'2", it's quite amazing how seamlessly he can get his jumper off, usually against much larger defenders as well. He has that quick release, and he has a beautiful step back game, and combine that with being a little free throw merchant like his fellow all-star SGA, and you just have an elite scorer through and through. Brunson has no issue getting to a spot either off the dribble or off a pick and roll, averaging 26 points per game last year and around 2 threes on 6 attempts. There are so many different ways that he can get to a spot, and he also has amazing finishing ability around the rim considering his size. Brunson hovers close to around 50% from the field and 82% from the charity stripe. Like his other fellow point guards in this tier, he has no problem being a facilitator. He averages around 7 assists per game and can consistently find the open guy and can consistently create open shots for his teammates. The one area that he is clearly lacking is rebounds. He only brings around 3 per game, so you'll definitely be hurting in that category compared to these other stat stuffing guys like Cade, Luka, SGA, and of course blocks. You're not going to see many Mutombo impressions out there from Brunson. He's not a huge guy in the steal department, but it's fine, coming in at around 1 per game. He makes up for that though with little to no turnovers, considering his high usage rate each year, cementing himself as a tier 1 point guard. Brunson is a high upside scorer, facilitator that's going to help you in percentages and not kill you in the turnover department. Grabbing an upside guy later in drafts to pair with Brunson, who's going to help you in rebounds and stocks, is a great idea, and someone like Amen Thompson comes to mind. He's going to be playing with a new look team, new look offense with the offseason departures of Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. That is Devin Booker from the Phoenix Suns. The Durant, Beal, Booker era has finally came to an end this offseason, and man, what a disappointment those years were with those guys. But we don't need to talk about that. What we do need to mention though is how I think this is going to be a plus for Booker's fantasy value this season. Booker, who is an elite down your throat scorer, will kill you in ISO or destroy you off a set action, averaged 25 points per game last year with 2.4 made threes on a career high 7.3 attempts per game. Another anchor free throw percentage guy as well, coming in close to 90%, so he just never misses. And he's solid from the floor too. His field goal percentage did dip a few points last season, coming in at 46%. The prior 2 years, he was both at 49, so I'm hoping he'll get back up to that level this year. But the one thing that Booker really improved last year was his playmaking ability. He averaged a career high 7.1 assists per game, which just helped his fantasy value tremendously. He'll also help you a little bit on the boards. He brings down about 4 per game. He's going to be pretty much like a 0 in those strict defense categories. He's going to get no blocks, and he's not going to help you too much in steals, averaging under 1 per game. But boy, does he take care of the rock. His turnover to assist ratio is nasty. He has under 3 turnovers per game, so you don't have to worry about punting turnovers like you would if you selected someone else from the tier like Trae Young. So yes, with Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal departing, the entire offensive load falls on his shoulders again, and I expect him to be able to carry that. I think his points per game is going to go up. I think his threes are honestly going to keep going up as well. I'll be curious to see how his playmaking ability, what happens with that without a Durant, that you can get a cheap assist, you just dish it to the wing and he goes to work. I'll be interested to see if he can maintain that 7 assists, or maybe it goes a bit higher with the ball in his hands just a little bit more, or maybe it dips down to his more career averages like in years past. But regardless, he's going to be shooting over 20 shots per game. I think his field goal percentage is going to get closer back up to that 50. He has no need anymore to take any possessions off like he would have playing with Durant. Booker is poised for a fat season, just like that fat extension he signed this offseason. Pair him with someone else that is elite percentages and you're laughing. Next up, we have a guy who may go down as the greatest point guard of all time, or at least the greatest shooter the game's ever seen. No bloated intro necessary. The Steph Curry. Curry is going to help you dominate threes all season long with great point totals, decent assist numbers, and honestly amazing free throw percentage. Seeing Curry miss a free throw is rarer than seeing a Dallas Cowboys playoff win. Ouch. He also doesn't have terrible rebound numbers for a smaller point guard like he is. The guy runs a marathon each night in Steve Kerr's motion-filled offense, running through 100 screens. I couldn't imagine guarding Steph Curry. That would be the worst job each night. I'm hopeful the addition of Jimmy Butler helps ease the load, helps ease the burden for Curry over the course of the season, take some pressure off his shoulders, because the Warriors are only going to go as far as Steph Curry goes. The reason that he's not a sure thing in S tier is that he's getting up in age. he has so many miles on his legs. I worry he might struggle to play more than 70 games this season, but if he does, or if he's around that 70 game mark, he'll easily finish as a top 3 point guard by season's end. Absolute elite contributor for threes, points, and free throw percentages, while not being that bad in the other categories as well. He may lack godly assist totals compared to other point guards in this list, so if you do grab Curry, I'd consider adding a high upside assist guy to pair with him later on. Trae Young is the next guy in this tier, and he's the legit head-to-head specialist who's going to absolutely dominate the assist column all year long. He's averaged over double-digit assists the last 3 years, and he's one of the best distributors in the entire NBA. He's also going to anchor your free throw percentage because he comes in around at 88% per year, one of the top marks out of the entire NBA, and add in the fact that he makes close to 3 threes per game, and he averaged 24 points per game last year, was actually the lowest mark of his entire career, dating all the way back to his rookie season. He is just such an upside scorer with so many different ways to attack you, especially beyond the arc, and you can just see why he's such a great anchor PG in a majority of leagues. The two categories that do really hinder his fantasy value though are field goal percentage. He came in at 41% last year, which is just not good, and then also turnovers. He usually runs a high turnover number each year. Last year was at 4.5, so just know selecting Trae, you're definitely going to be behind the 8 ball in both those categories. But just to show how good Trae is in those other stats, if you removed his 2 worst categories last year, so field goal percentage and turnovers, he was a top 12 ranked player in almost every league. I think Atlanta should be better this year, hopefully get a full healthy season from Jalen Johnson. And if you do select Trae at the end of the first round or start of the second round, I would lean into punting field goal percentage and turnovers and just focus on adding guys that are similar to Trae or that have similar strengths as Trae throughout your draft. And if you can get a guy that's upside in the stocks category, that's a huge bonus as well to pair with Trae later on. As we're about to kick off tier 2, this next group of ballers is below the 4 above them because of injury concern, off-court antics, declining age, or they're just not utterly dominant in multiple categories like the 4 people above them are. Don't get me wrong, these guys are still building blocks for fantasy squads. They may just come with a little bit more risk. Speaking of risk though, let's start this tier off with an absolute banger, probably the highest risk reward selection you can make out of your entire NBA fantasy draft, besides maybe Anthony Davis, and that is Mr. LaMelo Ball. So this guy's either going to win you your league or lose it. He just can't stay healthy, and it is so frustrating. He played 47 games last season, 22 and 36 the 2 years prior, and yes, I had him all 3 years. I just can't get over how fucking good he is from a fantasy perspective when he's actually on the court. He averages close to 25 points per game, 8 assists, 5 boards, and a steal while absolutely firing away from beyond the arc like a lunatic. He makes over 3 threes per game on a ridiculous 11 attempts. That lunacy definitely contributes to his worst category, and that's field goal percentage. He shot an abysmal 40% from the floor last season, the worst mark of his career. And if you just watched him play, he just takes some absolutely ridiculous shots. I wouldn't completely label him as like if you draft him, you're a punt field goal percentage guy, because he still is only 23 years old. Maybe if he matures a little bit, works on his game, he'll get better shot selection, know what defenses are reading him and when to do when. But if you do, he still is preferred for that type of build in a head-to-head category league. He needs to prove that he can stay healthy and that he's going to shoot better than 40% from the floor before we take that label off him. His free throw percentage is solid at 84%, and his turnovers aren't the worst. They're not the best, coming in around 3.5 per game. But man, some of the passes he attempts and makes are crazy, and everything really does fall on his shoulders and flows through him when he's on the court for Charlotte. I think the Bobcats will get a little bit better this year, which isn't that hard if we're being realistic. I think Brandon Miller is poised for a big season. Miles Bridges is always solid. And if LaMelo can just stay on the court, just a main thing that I've already said like 5 times about this guy, I think Charlotte will make strides in the win column. And I think that'll help LaMelo, Miller, and Bridges for all their fantasy games. I am so stubborn. I'm going to draft LaMelo every year. I've already paid my dues getting those sub 30 game years. You think I'm going to miss on the opportunity to draft him and he's going to play 60 plus games one year? No shot. He's a league winner or bust, and I love it. Just stay healthy and let's see you average close to a triple-double this year, my guy. You owe me. Okay, let's stay on the if this guy could just stay healthy theme, whether it be injuries or his obsession with guns. Home and credit to one of the best and funniest basketball sellies given his circumstances, given the good old grenade. That is Ja Morant. So yes, when Ja is on the court, he's extremely productive. He had a little down year in the scoring department last year, only averaged 23 points per game. Because if you look back at his prior seasons, he's usually always north of 25. A legit high flyer, no fear penetrator, always looking to posterize someone the second he gets into the lane. His athletic ability is just disgusting. Morant is not just a high flyer dunker either. He's also a pretty good facilitator, pretty good playmaker. He averaged around 7 to 8 assists per game, and he will do work on the boards, bringing down close to 5. Mark him down for a steal per game as well. So like I said, with his points down last year, his field goal percentage was too, so that's a direct correlation. Obviously, he shot 45% from the field last year, which isn't that bad compared to the other field goal percentage we said with guys in higher tiers than this. It just shows you how dominant he can be in that category if he gets back up to that 49-50% like he had been in prior years. Now, one thing that's really elevated his fantasy ceiling is his free throw shooting. It started last year, and even though it was a tiny sample size, it jumped up all the way to 80-82%, and then last year it continued on that trend. But if we look back, he was in the low 70s, and it was really just a detriment to his fantasy value, because when you're drafting a point guard, if he's shooting free throws in the low 70s, it almost makes it like an automatic punt, which just sucks, which is just something that you don't really want to do when you need productivity like free throw percentages from a point guard position. Regardless of that though, he is shooting more threes, and I think that'll continue this year. Desmond Bane is no longer on Memphis, so I think the weight of the offense is going to run even more so through Morant. He's going to have to carry that team to wins. He's going to have to facilitate. He's going to have to score. And I just think a lot more is going to be on his shoulders. That's going to directly relate to his fantasy performance. His shot attempts are going to go up. The ball's going to be in his hand a lot more, so his playmaking is going to get a bump, so his assist totals. And I definitely think he could easily get back to that 26-27 points per game that he averaged in 2021, because his usage rate is just going to skyrocket this year. I think this is all just barring if he can keep his guns hidden and stay healthy. So next up we have De'Aaron Fox, and again, it was another shocking trade last deadline when Sacramento shipped him over to San Antonio to pair him up with Wemby. Now Fox, I am a little biased, but I always love having this guy on my teams. He has such a quick first step. It's honestly just incredible to watch. Legit, nobody can stay in front of him. And before, defenders would maybe sag off him at the three-point line, being his one weakness. But over the last 2 years, he's really worked on his craft, really worked on his bag to develop some consistent or reliable three-pointer that defenders and teams just have to account for. And it's really helped him just become a player who can score at will. Last year, before Fox got shipped to the Spurs, he averaged 25 points per game and 2 main threes on 6 attempts, 6 assists, 1.5 steals, and 5 boards. It's honestly like a poor man's triple-double night in and night out, with a bump in steals. Because he's such a quick guard, because he gets a lot of steals, he does get a lot of points in transition, so his field goal percentage usually runs pretty high each year as well. He was at 47% in Sacramento last year, and in prior years, he's even eclipsed the 50% mark, more specifically back in 2022. Add in that he has a solid free throw percentage too, and he has a nice, well-rounded fantasy kit. But what was a little concerning last year when he went to the Spurs was the dramatic decline in his points totals, his shot attempts, and his usage. His points per game dipped to 19, averaging 4 less shots per game, with his 3-point percentage and field goal percentage both dropping too. Now, he did have a finger injury that the Spurs ended up shutting him down early, so maybe that was just bothering him. Again, you're shooting the basketball with your hands, so if your finger's nagging on you every time you go to flick that wrist, that could be a big thing in why his shot attempts went down and his efficiency went down. So that is a possibility. But regardless of that though, I think he is in a nice landing spot against Wemby. He's going to have a lot of lob opportunities, a lot of freebie assists too, just kicking it out onto the wing. And Wemby's going to burn somebody with one move or just hit a jumper on someone's dome, while also receiving his fair share of wide open looks when teams rightfully have to double Wemby down low. He's going to get so many kickouts, and also he's going to get a ton of points in transition and assists in transition too. One thing that's different with San Antonio than Sacramento is the Spurs have a lot more ball handlers than the Kings ever did. So his usage rate and his scoring might decline a little bit from this time in Sacramento, but I think his efficiency and assist totals should offset that difference. He's such a solid guy to have on your squad. I still love the upside from him. Maybe him and Wemby just become this unstoppable 1-2 punch. The OG stat stuffer, who is the top fantasy player or one of the top fantasy players for many, many years, who's getting up there in age though now, that is the beard. Mr. James Harden. A lot of people thought James Harden was done last year after the pretty dramatic decline he had the prior year, with a lot of his stats significantly decreasing. People thought Father Time had caught up to him. He was going into his age 35 season, and that's just a fair assumption. But that wasn't the case, and I'm sure a ton of people were happy to get James Harden at a discount last season for the year that he produced. It wasn't the prime James Harden by any means, but he still dominated in isolation with that beautiful signature step back Jimmy, averaging 23 points per game, 8 to 9 assists, 5 to 6 boards, a couple steals, solid free throw percentage, and 3 made threes per game on 9 attempts. He definitely hurt you in the field goal percentage category though, coming in at a pretty gross 41%, and his field goal percentage has been steadily declining for a few years now. And of course turnovers, but that's nothing new with Harden. He averaged over 4 last season, and he probably will again this year too. But regardless of that though, you were thrilled to have him on your team last year at the discount. I imagine there might be a little slight decline this year, going into his age 36 season. And if we look at last year specifically, Kawhi did miss about 50 games. So in those games that he missed, the entire offensive burden was put on James' shoulders to facilitate, to score, and make sure everything was running smoothly. So that would have helped bump up all his totals besides his efficiency, which is kind of exactly what we saw. Who knows what's going to happen with Kawhi this year? The guy just doesn't seem to ever even come close to playing a full season anymore. And also with that scandal coming out about him getting paid under the table. So I don't know what'll happen there with the league. Also, the Clippers added Bradley Beal in the offseason, but departed with Norman Powell. So I think those two are kind of a wash. So I would be a little scared drafting Harden at his current price point. I think Yahoo's pre-ranked him at 15 right now, but he is like a poor man's Luka with some justifiable baked in risk. But I just think he has too much stat stuffing potential still to be in any tier lower than tier 2. Just be aware of some of the risk factors when drafting him compared to other guys in this tier. So I went back and forth about including Maxey in tier 2 or at the top of tier 3. I ended up deciding in tier 2, and I'm going to explain why. Last year in 52 games played, he looked utterly dominant and looked like such a great draft pick for fantasy managers for those games that he was active. He ran one of the higher usage rates out of the entire league, greatly bumped up by the extended absences from Joel Embiid and Paul George. Maxey was the focal point of the offense and averaged a career high 26.3 points per game. And if we should get down further to games when both Embiid and George were out, Maxey averaged a ridiculous 25 shot attempts per game, which definitely affected the efficiency and lowered his field goal percentage over his overall stat line. That's what just makes him so hard to predict this year. I imagine Embiid and George will be more healthy this year, but that is far from guaranteed, of course, just based on both their injury histories. But when inevitably they play more games than they did last year, his usage rate has nowhere to go but down. Embiid is such a ball dominant player. The offense always flows through him, and Paul George will demand his fair share amount of touches and shots as well. The one positive though, when both these guys are back in the mix, is Maxey should see his assist totals bump up from that 6.2 he averaged last year, and if his efficiency, his field goal percentage is likely to increase. He should get a lot better looks, not have to force so much stuff. He won't be shooting 25 shots per game, that's for sure. And usually just with a lighter load for these star players, you can see a bump in efficiency compared to when they're shouldering everything. I honestly don't know how to rank him. I love his fantasy game. I love his steals, his low turnover numbers, usually good percentages, and he can shoot the 3 ball. Another high upside, risky type player who could vastly underperform their ADP if Embiid and George end up having really healthy seasons. I think I'm fine keeping him in tier 2, but what do you guys think? Do you think he should be in tier 2, top of tier 3, or just somewhere in tier 3? Let me know in the comment section down below. Again, I'll reply to every single comment, every video. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Okay, let's get into tier 3, where these guys still have a lot of upside. There may be more competition for touches, as they're not the go-to option on their respective teams. First up, we're going Josh Giddey, who still is unsigned as I'm recording this video, so his outlook is a little murky depending where he ends up. I honestly do think he's going to be back to Chicago on some either short deal, or they're going to try and work out a longer extension, and that's going to be a nice landing spot for him, as he had a great year last last year playing alongside Kobe White. So yes, I do love the upside on Giddey. He's another stat stuffing machine with averages of 14.6 points, 8.1 rebounds, 7.2 assists, and 1.2 steals across 70 games played last year. He has made solid strides in his three-point stroke, which was a glaring issue in years past. Giddey shot 37.8% from beyond the arc, making 1.5 threes a game on 4 attempts. And if we compare that to the 33, 32, and 26% in the years prior, he made vast improvements. He's not a stud free throw shooter at 78%, unfortunately. You'd like to see that a lot higher, especially for your point guard, but he's very solid from the floor, coming in around 46, 47%. And he won't kill you in turnovers either. For him to take a next step and get into tier 2, I need to see him be more aggressive as a scorer, try and bump up that point per game total, attempt more threes, make more threes, and get that free throw percentage up into the low 80s at least. Giddey is a very high upside play, a poor man's triple-double on a nightly basis. He has some risk right now, depending where he signs, but he's a perfect guy to pair with a stud scorer that you selected earlier on in your draft. Next up, we have Darius Garland, who is expected to miss the start of the season after that toe surgery that he had, and he's not supposed to be back until sometime in November, probably middle of November. Cleveland's going to make sure he's fully healthy. They don't want to rush him back at all. But he played a career-high 75 games last year for the Cavaliers and was a huge part of their regular season success. Even playing along such a ball-dominant and high-usage player like Mitchell, Garland produced averages of 20.3 points per game, 6.7 assists, 2.9 rebounds, and 1.2 steals per game. Connected on a career high 2.8 threes on 7.1 attempts as well, really helping him elevate his already solid fantasy floor. An exceptional free throw shooter at 88%, and he had a career best 47.2% from the floor. Again, he was tremendous last season. His assist totals have declined since Mitchell joined the roster, which makes sense. Mitchell, again, is such a ball-dominant, high-usage player. The offense directly flows through him. But you love the increase in three-pointers as Mitchell draws so much offensive attention on him, double teams, and he's a good playmaker, so he's kicking it out to Garland for wide-open looks, gimme looks. When Garland returns from his injury, I think he's going to step back into the exact role that he had last year. Cleveland hasn't made any big moves in the offseason, and I see no reason why Garland can't post similar numbers to 2024. He's a great point guard to grab after the higher ceiling options go before him, and especially if anyone's worried about injury risk, re-injury risk, and that gets baked into his ADP and his value dips due to any injury concern. Next up, we have my second favorite Canadian in this list, or really he's probably my first, but don't tell SGA. Jamal Murray, or the Blue Arrow, was reliable as ever in 67 games played last year, forming one of the best 1-2 punches in the entire NBA with him and the Joker. Murray will get you 20 plus points per game, 6 assists, 3 to 4 boards, a steal, 2 to 3 threes with great percentages. Just one of the many perks of playing alongside Joker, so many open looks, and the legit ability to go to work one-on-one without excess help being sent his way, because people have to keep an eye on Joker at all times. Murray is another guy I love drafting. Maybe I'm biased because I'm Canadian. There can be some injury concerns with him. He has had a pretty extensive list of injuries over his career so far, and he really hasn't come close to playing a full season since his third year in the league. But if he plays upwards of 70 games in 2025, you can't go wrong with him. Denver relies on him as their primary second option for scoring, and really in crunch time and clutch time, he's their go-to guy. He works so well out of ISO, and he is just clutch. He has a great bag to be able to generate his shot no matter who's guarding. The reason he's in tier 3 is because he doesn't particularly blow you away in any category, and you'd like to see him consistently play more games. But all around, he's as solid as they come. Denver's practically running back the same lineup as they did last year, so there's no issues there. And he complements Joker so perfectly. Next up, we have Steve Kerr's preferred choice over Jason Tatum, Derek White. So being straight up, I've honestly never got that excited about White. Yes, he's a great real-life player and the perfect complement alongside Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum in that Boston Celtics lineup. But I just don't get that, feeling from him, you know? His game feels like a little clunky to me. Well, this season is set up for him to completely change that narrative with me, with Jason Tatum expected to miss the entire year, Porzingis gone, Drew Holiday gone. He's really going to be the number 2 option behind Jaylen Brown for the entire year. He could really shove it down my face for me putting him in tier 3 and not tier 2. And I'll gladly take that L. So yes, White was great last year, averaging 16 points, 4.8 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, and almost 5 boards. He only had 1.7 turnover, solid field goal percentage at 44%, and his free throw was good at 84% as well. But strangely enough, it dropped greatly from the prior year when he was around 90. And it was the worst mark in his 9-year career since the first 2 years way back when he was in San Antonio. He's not the most dominant scorer by any means. I think he's actually lacking in this regard. He really does rely on that 3-point mayhem, that offense that the Boston runs where they just live and die behind the 3-point arc. He has 9.1 attempts per game with 3.5 makes. White's ability to get after it as a defender also plays huge, evidenced by his stock contributions and that switch everything mentality that Boston runs on D. So yes, with his usage rate set to soar this year, White could be in for a career year, but I do worry it could hurt his field goal percentage if he's shooting a lot more and his turnovers if the ball's in his hands a lot more and he's facilitating the offense from the point. Regardless though, like I said, I'll eat that L if he proves me wrong for keeping him in tier 3, but you know what? He's got to go out there and do it first. What do you guys think about White's value? Do you like him in tier 3? Do you think he should be in tier 2? Should he be elsewhere? I'm genuinely curious. Let me know in the comments down below. So I seem to have put a couple guys back to back that might be a little controversial. I got Freddie Flatfoot bringing up the last guy in tier 3, and I don't know if that's too high. We have seen a steady decline in points since his 2022 season with the Raptors, and an even larger drop-off compared to his first season in Houston to last year. His points per game dropped from 17 to 14, assists 8 to 5, three-pointers made from 3.1 to 2.7, free throw percentage 86 to 81, and his field goal percentage 41 to 37. So you're probably looking at me asking, why the heck is he in tier 3 then? Well, I'll tell you why. Well, first off, I think the offseason addition of Kevin Durant and the loss of Jalen Green is going to actually help Freddie Flatfoot, as Durant draws way more attention than anyone else on that roster and is a capable playmaker and passer. I know Thompson is on a rise to superstardom, but I don't think he's really a huge ball dominant guy. And as long as Freddie can get his open threes and knock them down at a more consistent rate this year, I think his value can easily hold steady and actually just improve a little bit. He's also going to get a ton of gimme assists playing with Durant, a nice little kick out to the wing, kick out to the top of the elbow, and let Durant go to work. And I think Durant as a whole is just going to improve Houston's half-court efficiency tremendously, something they really struggled with last year and especially in the playoffs. So yes, I can see him improving on his numbers just a little bit. If he gets something like 14 to 16 points per game, a few threes, 5 to 6 assists, and some steals with a field goal percentage just above 40, that will do just fine and easily justify this ranking. I think Freddie Flatfoot's current ADP is definitely worth the risk, as he's going around to pick 100 right now. Okay, let's get into tier 4, and I kind of want to label this tier like the young guns, with a lot of unknown and risk involved, but not without some potential for real upside, either by their ADPs or hoping for some potential improvement in some categories that they struggled in years past. First up, we're going to go with Jalen Suggs, and Jalen Suggs looked like he was going to have a career year last year before injuries completely derailed his season, only limiting him to 35 games played. Expected to be ready for the start of the season, I really like Suggs as a fleer pick. Before he got hurt, he had averages of 16.2 points, 3.7 assists, 4 boards, 2.2 threes made on 6.9 attempts. Nice. 88% from the charity stripe, which was actually an insane improvement from last year where he only shot 75%, so good for him. But unfortunately, only 41% from the field, really dragging down his value in that particular category. A defensive anchor for the Magic, so Pablo and Wagner can just go off on the defensive end. He averaged 1.5 steals and almost 1 block per game. All his numbers improved dramatically from the year before, except for field goal percentage, as he took about 4 more shots per game, so I think that directly affected his efficiency. But if he steps back into that exact role from last year, averaging about 14 shot attempts, 6 or 7 of them coming from beyond the arc, and just improves on his efficiency just a little bit, he'll easily outplace this ADP. There is no guarantee though, as Suggs is a career 41.9% shooter from the floor, and an off-season injury probably derailed any hope of him working on his craft over the summer months, putting in that work in the gym. But regardless of that fact though, I really like his upside, and let's hope he has an improved jumper going into 2025. Next up, we have Emmanuel Quickley, and playing in his first full season as a Toronto Raptor, he quickly, no pun intended, established himself as one of the Raptors' go-to scorers. It was a small sample size though. He only did play 33 games, but he's been pretty durable throughout his career, so we could chalk that up as just to an anomaly or just unlucky season. But he put up 17 points, 5.8 assists, 3.5 rebounds, 2.6 threes on 6.8 attempts per game. His free throw percentage was great. He struggled a bit from the floor at 42% and was practically a 0 in the stock categories. I will be curious how Ingram's going to affect the shot distribution in Toronto. He's a pretty ball dominant player, and just how their offense is now going to flow probably through him and Scotty Barnes. I don't think it's a positive for Quickley. Any way you look at it, I do think it's a negative. For him to survive though, he needs to improve on his shot selection, hit his open threes, and keep his assist totals near or at that 6 per game. Honestly, some defensive stats would be nice to kind of raise that floor up a little bit as well. We'll keep going with Isaiah Collier. So Yahoo has this guy pre-ranked at 338 right now, which I just think is absolutely ridiculous. He was so useful to close out the year last year on Utah. He almost averaged double digits in assists. And in the 46 games that he started after Utah went ultra tank mode expert level difficulty, he averaged 11.5 points, 7.8 assists, 4.1 rebounds, 1 steal, and shot 44.3% from the field. Those were solid numbers for a rookie PG. Collier definitely needs to work on his three-point stroke. He was an abysmal 26.1% from the field last year, but I don't doubt it that he put in work over the summer, or at least I hope he did. With Utah moving on from Clarkson and Sexton, and without replacing them with any veteran guards, this is Collier's spot to lose, and Utah should give him the full runway, just like they did in the second half of the last season, to develop him, to work on his game, and to see what he's got, to see if he's going to be a plan and be a part of their future. I think they'll be in tank mode for a second consecutive season. I really love Collier's upside as a late Fleer pick, or really as he's ranked right now, as the last pick in your draft. Insane potential for value in my opinion. It's a pool party, turn the music up. Sorry, I have that song. That's the song that plays in my daughter's dollhouse, and it's just stuck in my head anytime I hear the word Poole. Yes, Poole had a nice bounce back season after that disastrous first season in Washington. He's still going to destroy your field goal percentage on most nights as he shoots a ridiculous amount of threes. I think he's over 9 attempts per game. But now he moves in kind of a shocking trade to the Pelicans for CJ McCollum after he had a great year in Washington, like I said, with averages of 20.5 points, 3 rebounds, 4.5 assists, and over 3 threes hit on a nightly basis. Most of those were career highs for him. So with Poole now in New Orleans, Ingram is gone, DeJounte Murray should miss most of the year, and with Zion never able to stay healthy, you can't really count on him as being a solid part of the rotation for at least the majority of the year. I think Poole can carve out a real nice usage, a real nice role in that Pelicans offense, at least to start the year. Honestly, this could end up being too low on Poole. I do think he's at the top of tier 4 though, even though it's not reflected in this graphic. Maybe he should be at the end of tier 3, but if Murray comes back and if Zion miraculously plays 70 games this year, I think that's going to affect Poole in a negative way compared to Washington, where he could just chuck up whatever he wanted, do whatever he wanted every game. Because if he doesn't have a high usage rate or the ball flowing through him on offense, I don't know if his defensive prowess is going to transfer over to New Orleans, and I don't have a ton of faith in his playmaking ability. I think if he starts out in the first couple months of the season hot, he'll be a prime sell high candidate just before DeJounte Murray returns. I might be too low on Poole. I'm super curious to see how this is going to turn out. Next up, we have the Bubinator, Bub Carrington, and one of the few guys to actually play every single game in the NBA, which is just so rare nowadays with all the stupid rest days and all the load management crap. Carrington had a really solid rookie year. He made the NBA All-Rookie second team with decent averages. But what gives me the most promise and gets excited for his outlook this year is in the final 7 games of the season last year, when he just had full reign over the offense. He averaged 17.6 points, 7.1 assists, 4.9 rebounds, and 8 3-point attempts per game, connecting on 39% of them. Carrington needs to work on his efficiency, as most young guys do in the NBA. Carrington only shot 40% from the floor, but with the Wizards moving on from Poole and Brogdon, with CJ McCollum the only one coming back in return, I expect his usage rate to climb this year as they focus their attention on developing their young point guard. I honestly like the upside here. There might be some ups and downs, but if he has anything close to a stat line as the final 7 games of last season, he's going to be an absolute steal at his current ADP. Next up, we have Andrew Nembhard, and the main thing with Nembhard's value this year is Tyrese Halliburton's expected to miss the entire season, so we're expecting that playmaking and some scoring or at least part of it, to fall on Nembhard's shoulders for the Pacers in 2025. I think his usage rate should spike, minutes and shot attempts are going to definitely increase, and as long as his efficiency from the floor stays consistent and he improves his three-point stroke just a little bit, I love the upside on this Canadian going into drafts. Again, this would be right at the top of tier 4 if I'd organized it properly, just because of the massive opportunity that he has coming into this year. Obviously, there is no guarantee that he'll run away with it at all, but we chase upside, and Nembhard has tons of it. So now we're on to tier 5. And how excited are we about these guys? Like, really? Drew Holiday. So, like, does Drew even finish the year off in Portland? And maybe that'll bump up his value if he gets traded to a contender and gets a somewhat of a decent role there. But again, Portland should be focusing on their youth. But in deep leagues, you should at least have a solid floor to begin the year. D'Angelo Russell on another new team. It's his 4th team in 4 years. So that's got to say something. He should have, again, an okay floor until Irving returns. But when Kyrie returns later in the new year, he's definitely going to be droppable at that point. It'll zap his value completely. But at the start of the season, he is stepping into a starting role with Flagg, Davis, and nice lob threats with Lively and Gafford. There's a lot worse landing spots out there. Next up, we got Igor, baby, and a 6'9" guard. Always gonna get me going, especially with solid passing instincts like Igor has. I'll be curious to see how hard the transition to the NBA is gonna be for him, to see how much he's gonna struggle adjusting to the size, speed, and athleticism of it. And it doesn't help that he's going to be inserted onto such a crappy team that the Brooklyn Nets are. The number 8 overall draft pick could absolutely stuff the stat sheet. Igor's only real competition is Keon Johnson, Terrence Mann, Nolan Traore, and Ben Saraf. What even is that? So yeah, he should get every single opportunity to run away with that starting gig. I love this lottery ticket near the end of your drafts. Kevin Porter Jr., now maybe there's some upside here. There's just so many red flags, so many risks. I would way rather chase it elsewhere. Davion Mitchell, he's pretty much a handcuff, like how we like to say in fantasy football. I bet you he'll go undrafted besides the deepest of leagues. Dennis Schroeder, same thing. We're chasing elsewhere, boys. And last but not least, Mike Conley. Good for him, still grinding out there, man. But we're obviously not considering this. Okay, and I don't know if some of you noticed now that it's over, but I haven't forgot to mention these guys. These are a few people that aren't in the list beside me here that I just want to quickly go over because they could be very impactful at the starting point guard position this year. Now, Scoot Henderson is the first one. And like I said in Drew's little write-up, I expect Drew to probably be traded this year. This is supposed to be Scoot's team soon. Portland did invest a lot into this young man, and he should get plenty of opportunity. He was extremely useful for large parts of the season last year. Peyton Pritchard, who's just a massive sleeper pick, who's just going to continue to fly up draft boards, fly up the ADP as we get closer and closer to the regular season. Now, similar to Derek White, there's a big opportunity for him ahead of him with Jason Tatum gone, Porzingis gone. There'll be a lot of shots up for grabs on this new look Boston Celtics, and I'm excited for him. TJ McConnell, again, similar to Nembhard, similar to Peyton Pritchard, there's a huge opportunity ahead of him, and everything that I kind of said about Peyton applies to TJ. Chris Paul, maybe he's still useful for a cheap source of assists. You can decide for yourself. Kyrie Irving, I think I'm going to put him in the shooting guard video, but I just wanted to clarify that in case some people were freaking out why he wasn't in this one. Tyus Jones, I've always liked him. He's a grinder, needs more minutes or an injury to be useful, but he's just someone to keep an eye on. Okay, but I think that's it for this point guard tier video. It'll be the first one in the series. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the other ones coming out. I'll probably do shooting guards next, forward, centers as the weeks continue to get closer to NBA season. You won't want to miss them. I'll be doing fantasy basketball content all year long, especially weekly waiver wire videos. Hope you guys come watch, comment, and see how good, how dominant my mini hoop game's gonna get over the course of a season. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next rankings video very, very soon.